the virtuous good life. And that's how we develop the excellencies of our character. Now, there's a problem. And the problem is that we not only have the capacity to reason, but we have feelings. Now, there's nothing wrong with your feelings. But Aristotle says your feelings have the capacity to lead you astray. You can get too much into them. And look, for this picture, it doesn't matter left or right. I just need to divide them. Or too little. Overweight, bulimia, anorexia. He calls this excess, and this he calls defect or deficiency. Now, he also says that when you're led by your feelings lead you to vices. Now, this is not like we would think in Western religion, sin. This is just vices, things that don't work to your benefit all the time. A second hot fudge sundae, a third hot fudge sundae. Because it feels good, it tastes good, it nourishes a feeling, it's a nutrient need. But Aristotle says that reason would countermand depending on your feelings. He says actions that produce vices, say, oh, maybe I don't want to do that again. Put your hand on a hot stove. I don't think I'm going back to that again. Or too much, too drunk. So for Aristotle then, reason tells us to avoid the excess of actions and feelings. Not because feelings and actions are bad, but they have the capacity to lead us astray. Because what we want to do is end up with a morally virtuous character. And he says that can only be produced by the use of reason. Now, we're free to disagree, and I disagree with this, but I need you to understand Aristotle because you're going to be tested on Aristotle. Any questions about Aristotle? Just the theory. Does having this picture up there help you fill in the gaps? Okay, now, I have to embellish this a little bit. How do we get here? Is there kind of a formula? I mean, this is the formula, but how do I get there? This is theory. This is theory. Here, let me do it this way for you. Everybody have this? I can erase this. I have current, former, past military. Okay. I'm old enough. You guys had silhouettes when you went to the firing range? Okay, I didn't. Within days of getting in the military, you have to learn to fire a weapon. The military is a killing machine, let's just be honest. And the better you are at killing, the more successful you're going to be at war. Now, we do peaceful things, we're engaged at, but it's primarily designed to kill. And usually the best killing machine is going to win the war. So almost at day one, they want to find out how good you are. Now, they're not going to put human beings out there, so they put targets. In my case, they put bullseyes. In these other cases, they had silhouettes. And they give you your weapon. It's a rifle. And they'd show you how to make it hit what you point at. We call it zeroing in. And then they'd say, this is what we want you to do. When you fire down line, we want you to aim at center mass. And then they put everybody on the firing line. They say the firing line is open. You can start shooting. Bip, 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 bip. And the drill instructor, the DI, would look at that and say, okay, try it again. Bip. Okay, try it again. Try it again. Try it again. Try it again. Because if you can't hit the side of the barn, I'm going to take your weapon away from you. I'm going to give you a potato peeler. I'm going to give you a real safe place to spend the rest of your time in the military. I need to know that you can hit the side of a barn. And the reason we do it over and over and over again is because practice makes perfect. Now, in theory, we're all supposed to hit this. But when we apply theory, all the mechanisms, the sightings, we don't all hit the same place. We have snipers, we have experts, we have marksmen, we have potato peelers. But we all learn it the same way. Aristotle says in order to arrive at moral virtue, we all have to learn it the same way, but we're not going to apply it the same way. Well, how do you learn it when you pop out of the oven? And Aristotle says it's real important when you first pop out of the oven that we instill virtuous habits in children. Children don't have the capacity to reason. How are they going to learn to be good? Because we have a box with rules, and when you violate the rules, we have a punishment, and you learn to operate within the box. No lying, stealing, cheating, raping, robbing, no embezzling. There's no reasoning about it. We're instilling good habits from the very first days that you can begin to instill a habit. And children can be formed from the earliest stages. As soon as they come out, trust me, when you start to have them, you want them to go to bed at a certain time because you want them to sleep through the night. And you try and instill it. Now, they don't all cooperate, but you're trying to instill habits. Some just sleep through the night. Oh, my kid just sleeps through the night. I said, I want your kid. I'll trade you my kid. I'll give. I used to say, I said, $50. Take my $50. Okay, I'll give you 100. Because we're trying to conform them to a certain kind of behavior. This shouldn't be new to us. We've all been conformed to behavior. And it happens from the earliest stages. So Aristotle says, don't forget we're trying to get everybody on board. If we're going to be successful, we must start at the earliest stages. And what we do is we don't teach them, because little kids they're not teachable. You don't put them in a classroom. We're instilling habits in them. Now as they get older, the brain power kicks in. Now we have to have a conversation with them, because I said so. When you're out on your tricycle and I say stop, you need to stop, and then you can ask me why, or I'm going to wave bye-bye as that car just smashes you down the highway. And so we begin to employ reasoning methods with them until they get to a place where they can reason with us, and then we can sit down and have a conversation. So for Aristotle, theoretically, we all learn moral virtue the same way. We avoid the excess of feelings and actions. We find the middle ground, the life of moderation. He says this will produce the happy and good life. But how do we apply it? We apply it differently. Generally the same, but we apply it differently. So we all know no lying. Once in a while, anybody ever tell a little white lie? Have I asked? No one's going to get pregnant and give birth in here and bring a little critter with you? Yeah, because if you bring the critter in the first day or two, I'm going to have to lie to you. And I'm okay with it. You'll bring the little critter in and go, doesn't she look cute? Or, isn't he handsome? And I'm going to go, oh, yeah. I mean, that thing just spent 9 months in salt water. Go down to the beach and spend 3 hours in there. You come out looking like a prune. But in 2 or 3 days, that critter will look just perfect, you know? That critter will look just perfect, and I won't have to lie anymore. Oh, yeah, thing beautiful, yeah. Ooh. And it'll turn out just fine. But we all know you shouldn't lie. Any questions about Aristotle? Aristotle's not hard. Now, before you go, I got a couple of minutes. I'm going to let you out regular time anyway. I posted this note for you, too. Moral virtues acquired by the exercise of habit. At the earliest days, you don't teach. You instill habits. That's why hearing and seeing cannot be exercised from habit. They're there at birth. Virtues are different. Like activities produce like dispositions. So if you build a good habit, it'll produce a good habit. Virtue, therefore, is concerned with pleasures and pains, the excess of actions as they relate to pleasures and pains, vices, too much and too little. Because it's a learned habit, the doer of virtue must act in full consciousness of what you're doing. I am making the choice. He must will his own action and will it for its own sake. I'm doing this because reason tells me this is the correct way to behave. The act must proceed from a fixed and unchangeable disposition. It's not because I used to go to school and walk 5 miles in 3 feet of snow. That's not why you do it. You do it because this is what makes sense to us. This is what makes life virtually valuable to us. This is the essence of good virtue. Aristotle calls it finding the mean or the middle ground in action and feeling, between action and feeling. This is not the exact middle, but the relative mean. That means it can vary from individual to individual for a given person and in a given situation of action and feeling. So the virtues are the same. How we learn them are the same through habitual learning. But as they begin to grow in us and we begin to perfect these excellencies, they all aren't done exactly the same. They're individual to it. Everybody with me on that? So you have first violin, second, third on a sports team. Not everybody is going to be number one. You have different gradations. Everybody accepts that. That's the way it goes. The same thing will happen in the classroom when it comes to your grades. People who perfect A get A. It's not up to me, it's up to you. It's up to your moral virtue and excellency. So any questions for me about this? Okay, great. You want to hit the button in the back? Thanks, Oliver. Okay, if you came in late, let me know you're here. I'll mark you present. Otherwise, red light, green.